All right, everyone. Welcome to the latest Trees Around the Globe student research campaign, The State of Trees Under Snow, February 2025, featuring the February 2025 Snow View Intensive Observation Period in relation to land cover, trees, clouds, and how snow fits into our classification system. And we have Peter Nelson, who is on location just outside of Fairbanks, Alaska right now. So we're all over the place. That's great. We got lots of people coming in from all these different countries. I'm in at the NASA Wallace Flight Facility, Virginia, waiting to get kicked out of my office because we have what's called Code Orange as of 12 noon today because of an impending snowstorm. So they wanted us to get out of here, but I have not yet. So I will get out after this webinar. And Peter Falcon from California, and then Peter Nelson up in Alaska. So, you know, lots of as Peter mentioned, if you might have missed it earlier, Peter Nelson said, we're living the IOP right now. I'm living the IOP. Snow is about to hit, any minute now. So, yep. So excited about that. So I thought I'd put this little slide together. Since we're talking about snow, I threw a little, snow quotes in here. I won't read through all of them. I will mention though that the two, the one of the fence and the one of the feet here on the road with the snow, those are from the Globe Observer. So one is the one with the feet is a down photo from Globe Clouds, and then the one with the fence is a land cover photo. And then the snowflake photos are actually ones that my wife, she's a math teacher, but also a professional photographer, she took using a macro lens during our last snowstorm. So she basically puts out t-shirts and zooms into them with the macro lens and what's called an ice light, a light that illuminates the snowflakes. And you can see these are actually t-shirts, but it looks like a sweater, but they're actually t-shirts and the fiber. So just showing you some of these snowflakes and some of the cool quotes that are, some cool snow quotes that I found in snowflake quotes. So since we're talking about, snow today. All right. So I wanted to show this. So I've been going through the database every so often, looking at, where we get some really cool snow images from, during this 2025 Snow View Intensive Observation Period for February. So I went and I grabbed some here. Actually, we have some from all across, the Northern Hemisphere. You see a lot of the United States. There's a lot in Alaska. I can't fit all the ones in Alaska. There's a lot of them coming from there. A lot of them coming from, Michigan, all those, lots of those places there. New England, with like Massachusetts, New York, New Hampshire, Connecticut. And then we have some from Austria, Ukraine, from Italy. You can see that was on a ski slope. You had some skis on there. And then also some interesting ones. We had one come in from Mongolia and then a couple from Russia off of this peninsula in Russia here. So, these are all ones that came in, so far in February, only 11 days into February, but we got some really great ones here. And, there are hundreds and hundreds of ones that have come in. A lot of them, of course, from Alaska, a lot of them from Peter in Oregon, prior to going to Alaska. So, yeah. So, if you see snow, or even if you don't see snow, go out and take those observations. Or if it's about to snow, like it is here in Virginia and Maryland, where I live, go out and take those snow observations. But I wanted to showcase this. This is, just some examples of where these pictures are coming from. Peter, Nelson, you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, I would, because Anna mentioned it's summer where she's at in Patagonia, way far south, 45 degrees latitude south, actually. And what we can see is that there is some snow actually in the southern hemisphere. Pay attention to those snowfields or the glaciers that are out there. These are really important, especially right now, because that's how we know that the snow is there all year round, or at least right now it's around all year. And so what we're looking at in the northern hemisphere could be seasonal. And so, that's one of these wonderful things by doing these multiple observations throughout the season, we can actually help our classification. Again, does your area ever experience snow? Yes or no? And that's our big question that helps us to know what climate we might expect and help us with that classification. So, Brian, you did an excellent job on this map. Thank you so much for highlighting what we've been doing. And Anna, I want to highlight for you that this is a really important time to get that snow off or leaf on, tree leaf on conditions. And so we expect you to be having the exact opposite experience in 6 months. So we'll come back to you in August and check in and see where the snow has fallen um, after it has changed from summer, right? So this is a wonderful opportunity. We get a lot from the northern hemisphere, but please, if you're south of the equator, this is a really important time to capture areas where there's no snow. So thanks for that, Brian.
All right. All right, so the agenda, you can see we got a bunch going on here, and I want to just draw you all quickly to the bottom here. We'll have one of our colleagues, Matt Nyman, join us a little later on. He is an evaluator from Oregon State University. He is with our program, so he's going to talk to you about a survey for the Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign that we'd be really happy that you'd fill out. It's not a long one at all. It's, you know, your typical, like, once you see that Globe asks, you know, about to do a survey about things. So, but it's really important for us so we can, you know, gauge the interest, sustainability, and all that stuff with the campaign. So with that said, you know, I'm going to show you a little example here of something, but I'm going to go through some metrics as we always do. There's participating countries, and then these are the year breakdowns for the metrics. I won't go through all these, but this is the one I like to show. Since we began the campaign on the 15th of September 2018, and now it is the 11th of February 2025, over 222,000 observations from over 68,000 global sites of tree height, land cover, and greenings. And the land cover number has gone up a lot since last month's webinar, which was only, I think, about 3 weeks ago. So might even be, yeah, about 3 weeks ago, might have been 2 weeks. No, about 3 weeks ago. So yeah, so the numbers jumped up pretty nicely. So, but thank you all for that as well. Here we have the, you know, I always bring this up. This is the, as you know, we are in IVSS 2025 mode right now, 30 years of Globe, understanding the past, present, and future. I had this timeline up here. You can visit the website yourself. Sorry, drop down on that line a little bit. You can check that out. Make sure you're, you know, keeping up to date. I believe the 5th of March, and Allison there, correct me if I'm wrong, the 5th of March, I believe, is the final date for submission of IVSS projects. Is that correct? I don't know if Allison heard me, but
Yes, she put it in the chat, Brian.
okay, awesome, cool. Yeah, I kind of crossed that out here, but I was just making sure that was the final date here. So yeah, the 5th of March, 2025. So that'll be here. You know, it's about, you know, a little over 3 weeks away. So, you know, coming pretty quickly. All right, so I wanted to just show you this. What I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna back out of the presentation and then come back into the page. But this is a really cool page because you may know the Snow and Ice National Snow and Ice Data Center because of the Open Altimetry online tool that many of you have used when looking at tree height observations from space from ICESat-2. Well, the National Snow and Ice Data Center is great because they have lots of cool science stuff on there. One is the science of snow. And this is a really cool, this is a visualization that we have called the Breathing Earth. And this is showing you just the, you know, basically it looks like seasons, right? You're seeing the snow cover come and go, and you're seeing the green or the vegetation coming and going, you know, the tree greening. And so as Peter mentioned, you know, the leaf on, leaf off type stuff happening here. So this is a really cool graphic. I believe it actually is also on the Snow and Ice Data Center, but I'm going to stop sharing my presentation. I'm going to pop out and go to that website now so you can check that out, just so I can show you an example of that right here, because it's a really cool site. I'm going to hit the tab here. Here we go. All right, so here is the science of snow. You can see that, right, Peter? You look okay?
Correct.
All right. Yeah, just Zoom's been funky today, so that's why I'm asking each time. So yeah, so this is cool because, you know, as I mentioned, this is where Open Altimetry basically comes from. But there's lots of really good information on this site. So it talks about snow, like the overview of it. You know, what is snow and all that good stuff. Oh yeah, there's that graphic there. And then the science of snow. So you get a little more technical involved here. You know, how snow forms, to snow on the ground, to like different colors of snow to, to everything, snow and sound. So it's very, very in depth, why snow matters. And, this is getting into, one of the reasons why, and Peter, I'll let you add anything here. This is bringing you into why, Peter and the groups he's working with is having this 2025 SnowView IOP, correct? This type
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Brian. I love the National Snow and Ice Data Center because they are a place that holds a lot of valuable information about winter. And for some of us, that can be really impactful, like what you're experiencing, Brian. And so our ability to actually plan, prepare, all goes back to understanding snow. Will we ever experience it? And many of us on this have experienced extreme events where all of a sudden we don't know that snow is coming, or we're unprepared for that. And so all of these things that help us to understand the snow like this is what is really a valuable thing to be endeavoring in right now, because like you said, Brian, we're all experiencing this in certain ways. I want to highlight the really important thing here, which is photos. You are doing remote sensing. And so you actually, when you're capturing these, I love this one right here, Brian, that you're showing, is because we're seeing snow coming out of the sky, which is a question we have in Globe Observer, actually. Is it snowing right now? Or is there just snow on the ground, like what you're showing right there? And importantly, what is the color of that snow? It's not always white, actually. And so that is one thing you can quickly do is show us where is the snow accumulating? How long does it last there? What is the color? And I'll end with saying, Brian, earlier you had one that showed pink snow. That is a strange one that we'll come back to and talk a little bit about, but it's actually algae that's growing in the snow. And so it is something that researchers are really interested in, how a photo like this can actually really connect us to that one right there, to what we see from the satellite measurements. And again, here it's demonstrating when there's cloud cover, we really need these ground photos. And the way that the snow melts is just so fascinating because it reveals how the sun illuminates, maybe warms up our landscape. And so it really does provide a lot of details that you may not realize when you first take your own photo with the snow views. So Brian, like this right here are great examples of how really photos have provided some of the foundational knowledge about snow and glaciers, partly because 100 years ago, people liked to just photograph them. They didn't record their latitude, longitude necessarily, but it is a record that the National Snow and Ice Data Center has that helps us to even take our photos and put them into that historical context. So just a wonderful asset if you're wondering anything about snow and ice around the world.
Yeah, you mentioned that about, like 100 years ago, that would have been interesting to see people's reactions, coming over a mountain here and seeing pink snow and like what they would have thought. It would have been, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I just want to highlight again, that's my favorite word for these days, is how you are doing remote sensing. And snow is so reflective that it makes that contrast between it and all the other things in it that are around the land cover that we're trying to describe, just that much more obvious sometimes in many cases. And so again, I want to really emphasize this is data. You don't have to go out with a ruler. You don't have to go out and do anything other than using your Globe Observer and recording the way the light is reflecting off your location. So, again, I love this topic, as you'll see. So, Brian, thank you for taking us to the archive and the place where all of this data is stored, because it really is a fabulous memory, because I even forget what it was like 2 days ago.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Peter. And I just looked out the window and it is almost opaque out there. You can't see anything. It's really snowing hard now, so it's good stuff.
Brian, one thing about the snow conversation is, I know for me in Southern California, it doesn't snow very much, but that doesn't mean it's not important to me. I'm very concerned with the snow in Colorado because that's where my drinking water comes from. That's where my bathing water comes from. So and many people here monitor. And sorry, Allison, we really like your snow and take your water, but for me, it's very important. The snow melt in other places because yeah, it doesn't snow here very much, but that doesn't mean we don't need the fresh water that comes from snow that's piped into California for the millions of people that live here.
Wonderful, Peter. That is a very good thing that I forget about a lot of times because I think about the place that I'm in, and I rarely think about the place upstream from me as much.
All right. Go ahead and stop share there. I'm going to go back to the slides here. Oh, I'm actually going to I'm going to pass it over to Peter. Peter Falcon, you ready to show? Here, sorry, I didn't mean to like last second.
No, you did. Sorry. I was looking at something, and yeah, definitely ready.
Yep. All right. Yep. I'm going to pass it over to Peter Falcon. He's going to show you a little bit about Eyes on Earth. So go ahead and share when you can.
Okay. I know you can see yourself, but yeah, that's the worst, isn't it? Do you see my screen now? Is it okay?
Yep, looks good.
Perfect. Okay. Oh, well, thanks, Brian. Thanks, Peter. So what we're going to do is if you're not familiar with this application, it's very simple to use. It's called Eyes on Earth. You can see a lot of very simplistic data, if you would. It's a great introduction to young students to see the visualizations and animations of what data looks like. So you can see there are some of the different instruments that are orbiting our planet. You can see their data sets. You can see what they look like. So it's great to, as I mentioned, kind of get your feet wet into what NASA data looks like without being overwhelmed with all the different layers that you can see in other data sets like Worldview, which is more detailed, much better for research. This is great to see some images, some main events that have been occurring throughout our planet. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about some of the different images we captured using some of these satellites in terms of fires and ice as well, and the impact of those fires as well. So much like your computer, your phone, you can get it, move around, you can spin it around, you can go and create time lapses. You can go check out the different missions that we have here. And then you can also check out the different data sets as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna very quickly go and see some of the main events that we did have. And I already queued some up. So here's 2025, what we've captured so far. You can go here and check out specific areas. So for fire, as many of you probably know, California fires in my backyard. And we zoom in and we can even get even closer. As we do that, you can see the plume of that fire. You can see the impact of those fires, I should say. And then you can also go to the left down here and read a bit about the fires, the dates. Often if we captured multiple data sets, you can see an animation of those fires as well. And you can continue and go back throughout the years and see all the different fires that we have captured, going way back down to like 2011. So this is great to just kind of see what these fires look like, the impact of the fires. If students are doing research, these are great images that they can capture. I don't think you can download them, but you can do a screenshot of these different images. So those are just some of the different fire ones that we do have. As I mentioned, you can also go up, click on ice, and if you go back to, I believe it's 23, once again, go back to ice. Now we can start seeing some ice data as well. There's not quite a lot because as you can imagine, sometimes it's hit or miss if we captured these images, and often the satellites are not in the proper orbits to capture ice in the different regions of our planet. But when we do get a hit there, you can you can see what that image looks like, and once again continue and read up about that image. Let me go back up here, and as I mentioned, you can not only see Fire's ice, but you can see quite a few different data sets, and you can continue to go and scroll back throughout the years and see what we've captured. Another neat aspect of this as well is the vital signs. So if we go here, we have some data animations, and you can actually go and click on any of these data sets as well. But if we go to these ready-made animations that we've created, you can go here and see things like in Greenland ice sheets. You can see the water melt from Greenland, and you can see these kind of rivers of melting water that's pulling towards the ocean. And you can see the amount of water mass that we're losing per year. This goes to 2020. We actually have newer data, so we're actually losing more gigatons per year than 279. And to give you an example of what a gigaton is, it's roughly about 5,000 Olympic-sized swimming pool. The amount of water in 5,000 Olympic-sized swimming pool, that is 1 gigaton. And in this particular area, we're losing well over 280 gigatons now. So you can see this animation, and once again, you can grab that as well and show you what it looks like in Greenland, Greenland from this GRACE-FO data sets. And once again, you can read about that there. What I'm going to do next is see if I can get out of this guy, and then go over once again, go to vital signs, continue to the data animations, and then we're going to go over to carbon monoxide. Here we can see a lot of slash and burn agriculture throughout the years in areas like South America and Africa, where farmers will basically, burn their crops to get an extra yield of crops, but that also causes a lot of carbon monoxide. And you can see the global impact just in this area alone of that carbon monoxide as it goes across the world. Also, it has a drastic effect of the land, less biodiversity, irrigation, things like that. So we can see that from space, and once again, you can continue to read that down here. Another thing I wanted to show you, and actually we didn't incorporate this, but as I mentioned, this is a light version. It's great to kind of introduce students into what we're studying. If you wanted more in-depth analysis, I would suggest you go to Worldview. I think we all would, because you can get a lot of data sets, a lot of variables, and really kind of dive into the data with snow, ice, and fires as well. But another aspect that we do have is something we didn't put in the agenda, but it is an image of change. This is a great way to see our world from 2 different vantage points. So same vantage points, but 2 different data sets. So we're seeing a before and after image. Here is a breakup of sea ice in Canada, and the dates are May 2023 and May 30th. And as I grab this scroll, I can go back and forth and see that data from that vantage point. Sometimes it's photos, sometimes it's a satellite view, but you can continue going back and just seeing what the world looked like in those 2 different days. And if I go back here, if I go back and go to here, once again, you can see all the different time-lapse images that we have, and you can click any one of these and roughly do the same thing and see that data set and see what's going on with our planet in terms of this glacier melt and ice shelves and cavings and things like that. So this is a great, once again, images, I should say, that you can once again download and put into a young student's research presentation who's learning about the impact of ice from different regions of our world. So I think that's it, Brian. And I will put the links in the chat so that you can explore. And hopefully you enjoyed going there as much as I do, because the images are great, the photography, the data, and yeah, you can be there for quite some time. All right. Thanks, Brian. I will stop sharing now.
All right. Yeah, that's actually a very addicting website, because there's times when I go on it and I realize, wait, I got work to do, and I have been on that for like an hour of this, because you can search, as you might have mentioned, that you can search individual satellites. So I'm always looking like where the satellite is in real time. You click ICESat 2 and the Earth zooms around and shows you exactly where ICESat 2 is, where Landsat 9 is, where anything is. So it's really fun to use. Excuse me. So yeah, thank you for that, Peter. That was great. I popped the Eyes on Earth link in the chat so people can take a look at that. And I also popped in what we're about to head to right now. I don't know, Peter, if you want to say any introduction to this, but okay. So
Nope.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to Peter Nelson has put together a group of 15 YouTube video shorts for the Snowview Snow 2025 February 2025 Snowview IOP, and I think you start off with no snow, where there's no snow, and then you go to where you are today, like today, right now. So so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to share this and make sure I zoom, that I select include sound, because if I don't, no, it will be pointless.
You'll have to hear me talk.
Sound. Okay. All right, here we go. All right. Can you see the your
Yes.
playlist, Peter? All right. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to play a video. I'm going to start off with the bottom one. This is the oldest one at the beginning, and then we will stop after each video, and Peter can hop in and say anything he likes to about that, and we can have anybody ask any questions or discussion about it, and then we will hop to the next one. But we're going to go through these. This is the part of the main presentation today. As you know, he's coming live from just outside of Fairbanks, Alaska. So let me go ahead and play this.
Hi, I'm Peter Nelson, and I want to welcome you to the Snowview IOP 2025. And what we're trying to do here is focus on whether you can see snow on the ground, in the sky, or even in the trees like that behind me. Well, today the answer is no. But what we want you to do is keep paying attention, and if you go out and you see snow on the ground, that's what we're trying to capture. And part of that is because we're teaming up with satellites that are up above us. And so when you do your up photo and focus on what is up above you, you're helping to team up with a satellite. So join us to record whether there's snow on the ground, in the sky, or whether it's actually raining like it's starting to do right now. So join us for the Snowview IOP.
All right, Peter. Oh, sorry about that.
I can't get involved with
All right, let's keep on playing the next stuff all the time. Sorry about that.
Yeah, gotta love YouTube. So I made that video specifically to highlight for all those people that weren't experiencing snow. So I want to just, if you can put in the chat, we've been talking about this already, but put in the chat if you have taken any observations during the last 2 weeks. Or raise your hand and then Brian can see.
I don't see anybody yet.
All right. Well, that's perfect, because this is one of these things. And actually, Luis, I want to say, when you do a Globe Observer observation, you're actually part of our challenge, because the first question on surface conditions is whether there's snow on the ground, yes or no. And if you just record that there's no snow over the month of February in your location, that's actually really useful information to describe your location. There's going to be places that I show you that we go to here where in the same area, you might actually have no snow in one place and you might have snow in another place. So this challenge is something that isn't just one day. It's not just 2 days. In fact, the satellites that we're teaming up with are going to give us 8-day averages of whether there was snow on the ground, or we'll also have a 32-day average going across the whole thing. So if you're able to actually do a 32 days of observation, just like those satellites, that helps us to get around clouds. It helps us to see some of those things that happen within a 32-day period. And so, yes, it might feel that, well, I don't see any snow, so this doesn't apply to me. But in fact, the point is you don't see snow. And that actually gives us an idea of how low your temperatures are getting. It's not cold enough to freeze, and change that precipitation into snow, right? Make it solid. So as we move on here and look at a couple other places, I think that's just one thing I want to stress is that everyone who's on planet Earth has this question: is there snow here today? Has there ever been snow here? So I love that these questions have come up because it really does change a lot. It might even change throughout the day, like Brian's experiencing. In the morning, no snow. In the afternoon, well, it looks like maybe there's going to be some snow. So Brian, let's take a little tour here where we'll just go through and look at some elevation changes that I start off with on this tour here.
Well, friends, here we are, the beginning of our snow IOP, intensive observation period, looking at snow on the ground, in the sky, or in the trees. And I want to highlight, I am here at a place that has an elevation of about 25 feet above sea level. So one of the great things about snow is that elevation can actually help bring that to us. So when you're at a low elevation, you might not see a lot of snow, but stay tuned and we'll show you some places where elevation is helping to bring water in the form of snow to us.
Nice. Let's go to the next one, Brian. Where do I take us next on our stop?
Hi, we're back here for another stop on our Snow View IOP February 2025. And I want to start with how snow piles, this is our first evidence of snow from our last stop. We're at about 1,000 feet elevation above where we were at, and we see evidence of past snow. And in fact, it's piled up here probably because of the roads that are nearby. So this is a type of snow that might be hidden from you, but we're really looking for that because it is all about how long snow is in your location. The other thing is it can be really interesting when you start going around and looking at what's all around you. Because when we actually change our orientation, we can see that there's some snow here, hidden and protected by these trees from the sun that is coming to us from the south direction. So get out there and try to find these hidden areas of snow that are all around you.
Nice. Let's go to the next one, Brian.
Another stop on our wonderful Snow View IOP Day 1 field trip. And here I am at another spot where we're seeing snow. So what is really interesting here is we're at about 3,000 feet above where we started. You can hear cars moving in the background because we're coming up a road, in part because we have snowbanks that are keeping us from taking any other route. So we are actually restricted during the winter in our mode of transportation. So this is one barrier that we're looking to identify and add to our collection of snow view photos. The other thing that's really interesting to start taking advantage of and looking at is this, how our shadow can actually affect the brightness of what we're seeing. So as you're out there looking for and thinking about snow in your area, consider things like this, barriers to our transportation and how bright or shaded is your area. Hi.
Nice. Let's go to the next one, Brian.
Well, here we are at one of our really snowy stops on this Snowview IOP February 2025. And I want to highlight we're up here at about 4,500 feet above sea level, and you can see how much snow there is on the trees, on the ground, and we even have some clouds that are in the sky. They might hold snow. I don't really know from where I'm currently standing. It's starting to feel like there's some snow coming out of the sky, but I can't tell right now. But let's take a little look around the snow view that we have up here at this pass, a place where people congregate to have fun in the snow. And you can see the way that these trees survive and the way that they're shaped by these winter storms that bring the snow deep, both from the sky and long through the season.
All right, and let's end our tour here at our next final stop 6.
All right, we're going to end our field trip today for our Snowview IOP at about 5,000 feet elevation above sea level. And here we can see it's actually starting to snow on me, and we see snow in trees, on the land, and like I said, it's starting to come down out of the clouds. But it's really interesting because where I'm at, when you go around, you can see the sun literally over my head. And those are the clouds that are starting to roll in and come in. And that is all because of this mountain and volcano, actually, that we're located on. And here behind me is actually that volcano that is pushing that air, moist air up and causing it to come down in snow, which is a big reason why all these people are here in this parking lot right now, because they like to go out and play in the snow. And so here, I hope that you've got a good glimpse of how elevation can make snow form around us, how it can help shape our experiences, and as you can see, it can help create community.
Great, Brian. Let's pause right there and let's reflect a little bit. As I showed you there, we only traveled 30 miles. We did travel 30 miles south, but it was a very short distance. And within that distance, you saw a lot of variation, a lot of changes, all because of that elevation. So I'm very curious out there. Does anybody else live in an area like this where they might have mountains around them that hold the snow, while where they live it might not be very snowy? So I'm going to pause here and give people a chance to either chat, give us a chat there. But I'm curious, how many people are living in a place that might experience this elevational gift of snow?
I will say, Peter, we do not here in Maryland, because where we are, we're at sea level. The highest point of elevation is the landfill.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So, Brian, let me ask you, if it's not elevation that's bringing the snow to you, what is bringing the snow to you today?
So we live in Delmarva. We live in this crazy buffer zone between the Atlantic Ocean and the Chesapeake Bay, where sometimes the Chesapeake Bay keeps more snow away from us, and sometimes it gives us more snow. But this storm is coming basically straight across. It's not a very wide band in the sense of geographically, but it's a band that is basically coming a little bit further from the south where it's rain, but as it's hitting here with these colder temperatures and the higher atmosphere, it's creating basically these strips, across the sky that's dropping these. Because where I am now at the NASA Wallace Flight Facility in Virginia, and it's just it's just a few kilometers over the Maryland Virginia border. It's snowing really hard here, but my wife just texted me about an hour north of here. It's not doing anything yet up there.
Right.
So yeah, but we're supposed to get more snow there than here.
Right. Oh, I mean, Brian, this to me is one of the most fascinating things about snow is you can stand in one place and get a lot of it and go to another place not very far away and not experience it at all. And I thank you, Marcus, for sharing your experience, over there in Europe, where the mountains, the Alp mountain range is one that really provides snow. It provides glaciers as well. That ice that actually accumulates year after year after year, and so to me, this is one of those nice things when you look at satellite imagery. Sometimes you can actually see elevation because that's where the white or the snow is recorded, right? And so this is just kind of a fascinating thing. Where I live, we have mountains that help to create snow. Brian, where you are, you have big water bodies that are helping to create that. And so this is, again, one of these things that really is fascinating to me. What I'm experiencing is just so different than what Brian's experiencing or what Sabrina's experiencing. And so this is why it takes a global community to really capture all of the variation that is out there. So, Brian, I really like this conversation about elevation, but I'd love to focus a little bit on that down photo, because this is, again, this remote sensing piece that when you take your down photo with Globe Observer, you're actually capturing a lot of information there. And so let's explore a little bit about that data that might be coming from that down photo.
Right. Number 9.
Yep, that nice green one.
Oh, is it that one there?
It starts with the green, with the ruler.
Oh, this one here. Got it.
Yep.
Got it.
Welcome back to our SnowView IOP, our intensive observation period, where we want to focus on what is on the surface conditions of Earth around us. Today, I want to highlight an example of how our down photo is really a simulation or very similar to what our satellites are doing from space. So let's dive in a little bit here, where we actually have a scale. And so we can know what distance things are at, regardless of whether we know the units. There is a consistency here that is really important. Okay, so as we move up, you notice that things change, and that's exactly what happens to our satellites and our imagery, and we need to pay attention to that altitude. So when you are doing your down photo, just recognize that your feet provide scale, and when you zoom out, you are doing about 1 meters of a ground photo observation. Importantly, you might have an area that is very similar. There's some difference in greenness here, but as we move forward, you might encounter a different surface like this. And so we'll come back and talk about how can we determine what this surface is based on our sunlight reflectance.
Nice. And Brian, let's do the next one too, so I can show you what happened the next day, literally 1 day later.
Welcome to today's SnowView. as part of our intensive observation period in February 2025. Here, we're looking at a down photo or down direction of an area that has some snow on it, but also areas that does not have any snow. So this is an example of a mixed area, mixed pixel, actually. And one of the things that I want to highlight with this is where I'm currently at making this observation. You can see where the sun is at because of the shadow of myself here. So that direction of the sun can be really helpful in understanding what time we took our photo, how much illumination is happening at that spot. And as we pivot up and look upwards here, one of the things that can fool us is frost on the trees. So help us to clarify what is happening in our snow view. Welcome.
That's wonderful. And I want to stress, that trace snow piece that we were looking at right there is a really important number and measurement that we have. So make sure that you're getting those times too when you have that variation that's there. That's a really important, as I said, mixed pixel. And that's what the satellites are trying to see. And it looks very much the same from space as it does when you take your down photo at about 4.5 feet off the ground. At least for me, Brian's much higher in altitude when he does his down photo. And this is one of these things that is a variable with all of our down photos. I'm at a different altitude than Brian, who might be at a different altitude than Peter Falcon. And so that's where I wanted to show you and demonstrate how you can add some consistency to your data like this when you're doing your down photo in particular, just like the satellite data. And so if we take a look at this next one, Brian, what happened?
Welcome to another day in our snow views, February 2025 intensive observation period. This is one of the things that we are trying to find. Down photos of snow. This is a great example that includes people, or evidence of people anyway. And so you don't have to have perfect snow to make observations. This is actually really interesting to see the scale from people's footprints. We can also see a little bit of the depth of the snow here. Again, we are really focused on snow cover. So don't worry about telling us exactly how deep it is right now. There's ways that you can do that. But we are really interested in this down photo like this that shows us a little bit of the texture of the snow. What's it like in your area? Join us.
All right, Brian, and let's end this down photo with the ice one right above that.
You want number 4 here or the 5 one?
That one right at the top, the ice example.
Here we are with a really interesting example of a down photo that is not really snow. There's some snow on top of it, but this is ice. Ice that has been made for having fun during the winter. But I wanted to stress how different this looks compared to snow cover. Again, we can see a little bit of that here as we look. There, right there is some examples of snow, and up here is where our ice is located. Really fascinating, really interesting to see the difference in the way that the sunlight reflects off of ice compared to snow.
Wonderful, Brian. Pause right there. And I hope you see, right there with our photos, how we can see the difference in texture between snow and when it turns into ice. I know, right? But when it turns into ice, it actually becomes even smoother. And that texture is what causes the sunlight to reflect off differently. and allows us to actually see the difference between snow and ice. So again, you might find examples like this around you. And so please, add that. This was something I stumbled upon. I wasn't expecting to find an ice sheet like this in the middle of town. But again, it helps us to see how people are adapting to the land around them, and importantly, how they're having fun in a cold time of year like this. So I want to pause right here, since we focused a lot on these down photos, and we've gone from green to white to this really white, clear white almost. Does anybody have any questions or comments about your experience doing down photos with Globe Observer? So one of the exciting things about those down photos and that snow like that is that actually becomes a really good reference for later in the year. Because I expect that seasonal snow to change and not be there later. So, I saw we have some people joining us from Patagonia and far south, that right now in that down photo, they might have more of that first one that I took a picture of, that I recorded, of the green that's there. And and that is really okay. It's great, because I would expect at some point that down photo to transition and look like one of those other ones, whether it is mixed with green or white snow, or even if it gets just muddy. That is, again, one of these things that helps us to know the season that we're in, even the temperature of that water, right? Rarely will you have mud without it being above a certain temperature. So these little indications of surface temperature that you're recording with us actually are giving us really interesting and useful climate data. So I'd like to just continue on and show you a couple of the other videos that I've recorded, highlighting some of the interesting places that I've gone to up here in Alaska. And Brian, if you let's just go to the Fairbanks, Alaska one.
Hi, we're here for another edition of Snow Views, February 2025. And I'm up here in Fairbanks, Alaska, which is now really snowy. And here we're looking south towards one of the tallest mountains around. It is a very sunny day with clouds pretty much absent from the sky. But we can see all the ways that people have been adapting to this environment. And what's really neat is here at the University of Alaska Fairbanks is a place where satellite data is downloaded and made available across this very northern region.
Yeah, pause right there, Brian, because this is a really important concept about how we work together, right? Not all of our satellites go and cover all places on Earth. And so one of the places that has been neglected or can be neglected by some data is anywhere 62 degrees or further north than that. And so here, since 1980, there has been these downlink satellites, just like what you see on the top of these buildings at the university, that have allowed them to actually access some data that otherwise would take a really long time to get up here because they would have to go through where Brian's at and then get sent up, or they may not even have it at all. So these stations like this, areas where we can access satellite data as it crosses over, is really, really important. And so you'll see these type of stations around the world, and that allows the satellites to actually pass on their measurements down to a facility like this. And so we'll be highlighting some of the data that comes from these satellites or these antennas and are turned into maps, some of what Peter was showing you earlier today. So this is a really great example of one of the things that our Alaska Globe partner has access to, right? So all of our Globe partners have and focus on different things. So this is another reason why I love working with other people and other Globe partners, is because we have different landscapes and we also have different equipment and tools that we can share amongst each other. This was a great, fun day. And I'll just mention, I didn't say the name of the peak there, but that mountain range that we were looking at is 24,000 foot Denali Peak. So that's how far we can see from the University of Alaska Fairbanks campus. Yeah, you're seeing the tallest mountains in North America right there. Pretty incredible. But I will say, one thing that was pointed to me by some of the elders up here during our workshop, this might look really clear, but it used to be even more clear. They're seeing evidence of air pollution up here. And so that is one of those things that they used to be able to use to orient themselves, to navigate around with. But as haze or clouds or other things get in the way, they are having to find new reference points or new ways of thinking about their landscapes. So I was really excited to be able to see that far on a day like that and share it with you all. So with that, Brian, let's see, where do I take us for this final video?
Welcome to another wonderful Snow Views day. I am out here in the far north, or at least far to me. I live at 45 degrees north latitude, and I'm up a lot further right now at about 65 degrees latitude north. As you can see, it's frosty all around me, including on my jacket. I'm also not wearing my sunglasses today because the sun hasn't come out, and so it's actually still a little dark here. I want to highlight how important it is to capture the trees around you. Trees are really adapted to the environment that they live in. Here, right behind me, you can see the shape of the conifer tree that captures snow on its branches and helps it survive this harsh winter like this, when snow might end up on its branches for a long period of time. So show us what your trees are like, and with this Globe Observer intensive observation period focusing on snow.
Well, Brian, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to take everybody on my journeys around getting excited about snow, sharing what I've been seeing out there, helping you to understand why we care about these things. And as you saw there, my mouth was getting cold as I was talking, which it reminded me how much I can learn from those trees and the non-humans around me about how to survive in a harsh environment like this. And so I hope that you've enjoyed some of that inspiration that we can do with this Globe community. And all it takes is a little bit of going outside and doing some remote sensing with your phone. And we'll be doing this intensive observation period all the way through February 28th. So when we do our next Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign webinar, we'll be able to highlight some of those things, including that 32-day snow extent. Have you seen any snow during the 32 days of our measurement period here? So I hope to see a lot of what Brian was showing earlier, more examples of shapes of trees or where snow is at or where it's not in your areas. And let us know if you have any questions about this. If you'd like to have your students highlighted in one of our Snow Views videos, we're really excited to help all of us see what is happening in February and think about in 10 years. What are you going to experience? I mean, when I check back in with Brian, and he's still working at Wallops Flight Center there, will he be experiencing snow on this anniversary day? Or what will be happening? That to me is where these photos really help us to remember and help share with people who haven't experienced that. Maybe help them to understand what the climate has been like, what the weather has been doing, all of those things that we can see in these photos, including, I love the fact, Brian, that you started off with the shape of snowflakes, that you can actually get really detailed with these too. Add those as feature photos. These really, people are spending a lot of time trying to understand the shape, the location of snow like this. And it's something our elders are telling us that it is changing. Those snowflake shapes and things like that are not the same as what they experienced. So this to me is how we can work together using this database to share not only what it looks like through those photos like that, but I really like the detailed photos that you can get to and include and share with us. That's what I want to highlight today. I could take you outside and we could do a whole bunch of other things, but I want to make sure everybody here gets a chance to ask some questions about what we're doing and make sure that you're comfortable and you want to be involved in capturing this thing that can really change in a moment's notice, like Brian is demonstrating for us as we speak, right? What's the weather like out there right now, Brian? Oh, you muted yourself.
I'm looking towards the runway and I can see about 2 meters out my window. That's it. It's
wow.
coming down pretty hard. And when we started this webinar, I could see all the way to Chincoteague Island, which is probably, I don't know, maybe as a crow flies, 5 kilometers.
Oh,
so yeah.
Yeah. All right. Valerie is asking for a view. So, if you're able to do that, Brian, great. But that to me, that distance that you can see is actually a really important variable that the National Weather Service it really wants to have. Trying to predict where snow moves once it comes down is one of those things that is really hard to do, as you can all imagine. But snow doesn't stay in one place. It actually it goes and gets moved around, blown around. And so it creates a whole lot of blowing snow challenges. Brian, thank you. That is an incredible view.
Yep.
Wow.
There you go. Yeah, it's coming down pretty hard.
Right yeah, now. And what
it's
I
not,
see
not much on the asphalt runway, but I'm looking over. I can see it's covering the grass already.
Yes.
Just to the north of here.
Oh, Brian, and you really hit on a really great thing right here by showing that to us. How the land cover actually changes or allows the snow to start accumulating or not, right? And this gets back to that surface temperature thing that Kevin Psychowski keeps talking about, right?
There's some of that grass out there.
Yeah, and right there. So that grass cover, yes, that's a perfect one. That grass is a different temperature. It is actually a cooler, and so it can start accumulating that white snow like that. While you can see even the seams between the asphalt and how the asphalt gets laid together. We're seeing surface temperature in action right there, including the water puddles that are right there that are telling us, yeah, you're right at about freezing level. So this, this is a great example of how, okay, yeah, you can't get outside today. do something like this. You know, you can still participate because these photos really capture that moment in time. Brian, thank you so much for giving us that nice view. Now I don't have to go outside in the sub-zero temperature.
Right.
Right? And we all got to see where you actually get to work.
All my stuff in the background. It's pretty busy, but yeah, that's right.
It is. So again, you know,
Yeah.
thank you, Brian, for taking us on that little view of what you are experiencing right now. Because again, as you said, just within the time period of this webinar, that has changed, and that is our challenge of mapping out what is happening with snow. It can be very, very dynamic like this. So go out every 15 minutes if you can during a snowstorm. Take those events, because we have satellites that are actually focusing on you every 15 minutes and taking those down photos, but just from 24,000 kilometers away. So again, you know, simulate a satellite, be out there and get to experience this. I will end with saying, one thing is my phone started slowing down as it got below freezing. This is a known operating issue. If you look at your owner's manual, it tells you don't take your phone and use it below freezing. So just be aware that I've had some issues with the Globe Observer app crashing or being really slow. Just think about what NASA has had to do to put some of these instruments in space where it's even colder, right? So I recognize we're asking you to bundle up, to be safe, to go out and go into an extreme environment. And so be safe when you do this. And we also don't want anybody to injure themselves when they're doing this. So take the best precautions that you can. Use the advice of your teachers and those around you when you're doing this. But recognize this is the type of environment that NASA is building to work in. Really cold, hopefully not snowy, but definitely cold, right? So you can think about yourself and what an astronaut is going through when they're trying to do the data collection that we get to use and from all of these instruments. So, you know, I will talk a little bit about how we do that and in our next March webinar, because it's a really fascinating thing that what you're doing is just simulating what not only a satellite is doing, but what an astronaut gets to do and has to deal with and think about when they're out there. So, Brian, I know let's turn it over and talk a little bit about wrapping up kind of this webinar for today, because you need to get out of there so that you can get home safely. And so I appreciate everybody's time here and you spending that time there to guide us through some of the things that we're doing with trees and snow this month.
Thank you, Peter. That was absolutely amazing. I love the videos and gonna go back and look at all of them again. So I put the link in the chat to them. So thank you. So before we go, and yes, I do need to get out of here, but it's okay. I want to pass it over to Matt Nyman. He has joined us. He is an evaluator at Oregon State University, and he's going to talk a little bit about a survey that he and his colleagues have put together. Oh, looks like Matt's popping back in again. Left and he came back. So let me see here. Matt's connecting. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead, Matt, and pass it over to you, because Matt is going to talk a little bit about the survey that they have put together for the Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign. And as I mentioned earlier, that we'd be highly appreciative if you fill out the survey. It won't take very long, but I will pass it over to you, Matt. And thank you, Matt, for being here and doing this for us.
Okay, well, I was on my phone for a while as I was driving back from a doctor's appointment, and now I'm home. And I just wanted to say I really enjoyed, Peter, your presentation and all your videos, and it's good to see everyone. So I'm excited to be here. So my name is Matt Nyman. I work at the STEM Research Center at Oregon State University, and we're the evaluators for the NESIC project, which this is part of. And our goal is to understand the impact of these things like these webinars, as well as give feedback to Peter and Brian and Peter, so that we can continue to improve the delivery and relationships that they have developed with you folks. So we really, really appreciate you taking some time to finish this survey. It's pretty short, but it'll provide some really good information so that we can keep doing all of this great work. If you have any questions, I think Brian just put it into the link, into the chat. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Brian or reach out to me, and we can get back to you. So once again, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And it was fun to hear all about snow.
Hey,
All right.
hey, Matt, if you like, can you share your email? Unless I'm not sure if it's in the survey or not, but just in
Okay.
case somebody wants to
Yeah, let me do that.
directly. Okay.
Yeah, and Peter, are you in Fairbanks now?
I am right now, actually.
Wow.
So, yep, I get to fly home tonight. This was one of my reasons for being up here, was to do this webinar from the far north so that we could actually extend our global reach and work with our Globe partners up here. So it's been wonderful, and I want to extend an invitation out to everybody here. Like, make sure that we know how we can support you. If you need data, we can help you with that. If you need some videos like this, we'd be glad to help you out. And so as you're going through and thinking about your own student research campaigns and what you're doing with your students, make sure that you're aware, and remember, we're here to help as much or as little as you want us to be, because as you can tell, we love this subject a lot, and have a lot of interest in supporting the global community in their data collection and helping to connect to those trees that have been growing for the last 7 years that we've been doing this campaign.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at my phone app now about weather, windy. It's called Windy, and I see there's a lot of precipitation where you are, Brian Campbell.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Snowing hard now. Snowing hard.
So drive safe.
Yeah, I only have
Exactly.
a 55-mile drive home. So it might take a couple hours to actually get there, but the main road should be good as of now. They put a lot of what's called brine on the road here. They layer it. Last night it was here, so I saw it all this morning. So, but Peter, I am going to go take an observation when I walk out my office on the way to the car. I'm going to stand right next to the runway and do the
Nice.
observations. It's coming down pretty good again. So, and then when I
Excellent.
get home as well.
Yeah, really appreciate that, Brian, because, I know it's not easy. I know it takes some time. And this is when all your practicing with Globe Observer really comes in. If you practice with it during the summer, when it's cold out and you really have to do it fast, you can get it done pretty quick there. So I appreciate that. And, everybody else out there who is experiencing the weather events of February, stay safe, stay warm, or stay cool. As we heard from some other people, they're experiencing the exact opposite I am, which is wonderful. I mean, that's the globe that we live on. And I am just so grateful that I can share my enthusiasm for this subject with you. This really is a lifelong dream and what got me into remote sensing. So thank you all for taking me along on your journeys. And I love the fact that we get to see why we're doing this in action and how NASA actually responds to it. They're looking out for you, aren't they, Brian? They're not making you work.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. All right. So everyone, look for once again a email showing when the recording is available for this webinar. But also, I will be sending out a separate a separate email with the information about the Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign survey that Matt just introduced to us, and with the link. So, but I'm also going to include it in the recording email as well. So you're going to see it twice. But please go ahead and do that. It's very important, as Matt mentioned, for a lot of different reasons. So, all right. So thanks, everyone. And I'm going to pack up and go outside, throw on my hat and jacket and go outside and head up the road, head north, up until where it's going to be more snow.
Your next observation, Brian.
Yep. When I get home, I'll do it. Yep.
Exactly.
No observations while you're driving, Brian.
No. I don't want to have to look on all four cardinal directions as I'm driving. That would be bad.
You're not an owl.
No, right. Not an owl. Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Be safe.
Thanks for including me. Take care.
Yep. Thanks, Matt. Safe flight, Peter.